we've just kind of scaled back and really narrowed in. And so just because we had that one indoor facility that I've basically booked as much as I could there. And of course we're splitting time from basketball and volleyball. I've got as much time as I can there. So I've offered as many programs without exceeding the numbers. We just kind of have gone away from outdoor, one, because it's been so hot, two, because the weather was always a big stressor, week to week. If the weather hit, we'd have to cancel. So being indoor, we never had to worry about cancellation. So I've really just gone more to indoor and kept it super small and tunnel visioned because there's less variables. But we could have done outdoor.
Is this a private or public facility?
The indoor gym?
Yeah.
It's a public, well, it's D1, used to be Velocity in Piedmont. So I got in there 2.5 years ago. So when they were able to open up programming, I had a relationship with them to where I was one of the first ones in. And there's other organizations that are trying to get in, but because of all the grandfathered in ones, but they are still operating as normal ever since the governor opened up the gyms and the numbers.
Are you doing safety precautions, or are they requiring it?
They are requiring some. It was more about their protocol was more toward the members that they had coming in. I actually sent them my protocol, and mine was a lot more intensive than theirs would have been. Mm-hmm. But I sent them what I was going to do. So, we have all of our participants coming in the back of the facility. So they're not coming in with all the other programming of their facility. Yeah. We have waivers. We do temperature checks. We do spray downs of equipment during, we do water breaks and sanitizing the hands. They have spots on the wall, like all the norm that everybody has been talking about. So we're keeping, pretty strict guidelines just to make sure that we're not getting lax on it's been going on so long and everybody's done with it type thing. But we are doing more interactive true volleyball. But with that comes another waiver that the parents have signed that they understand it's an interactive and it's beyond just I release to the COVID type thing.
Got it. Good. Folks, we'll start here in a minute. I'm gonna give a couple more minutes for people to get in, and then we'll get started. If you have background noise wherever you are, if you would mute yourself, and then when you want to say something, just unmute it.
Does that mean I have to stop washing dishes?
Hello, Lance. You popped up.
Jimmy, can you do me a favor before we start?
Yes.
I'm on my cell phone, actually. My computer's super slow. And I've been hitting the mute on my side. I just wanted to make sure I'm not technology inclined. So I'm going to go ahead and hit it, and just let me make sure you don't have any background noise from me.
I can do it from here if you like. I do.
Either one.
Yeah.
I'm going to hit it now. So just
tried it. It obviously didn't. There you go. Yep, you did it right. That'll be good. Has anyone had any success in getting into a school over the summer or currently?
I'm starting preseason tomorrow. We're not in a public school. We're at SCACs. We're a SCAC school.
Yeah. They're probably
at a private school I could get in. The private school we primarily use I could, but I don't think the public schools are.
Yeah.
I've got a private school I'm getting into also. No, for low country, we can't get in Beaufort County schools.
Got it.
Come here, please.
All right.
Fast.
We're gonna get started. We've got about 23 in right now, expecting several more, and I'll get them in as they come along. So bear with me. Again, we've got a little bit of background noise, so if you got that, mute yourself, please, or I'll mute everybody and then you can unmute it.
You ready, Todd? You're 40.
I'll just do it. All right, everybody's muted, so you can, if you've got comments, what I'm going to do is go through some information, and here's what we'll have comments and feedback a little bit later from everybody or other ones. If you have a question, use your chat option at the bottom. And then there's going to be some areas that we have questions, how you feel about something. Let's say it's tryouts. What I'd like for you to do before you put your comment is head it with tryouts and then put your comment, because I'm going to keep all these chat remarks, and I want to know what the topic is, while I'm reading it. So since we have different things. But if you've got questions, do that. Julie's monitoring our chat, and she can let me know if we've got something that's on a topic that we're on currently. Oh, you can hit, my wife's telling me, who's the Zoom expert, that you can just hit the space bar if you want to say something. Learning. I would figure everybody is on these things. All right, let me share my screen and get over to a PowerPoint. And again, if you got questions, stick it in chat. If it's on a topic, just start off with that. So the agenda for tonight is we're going to talk about the high school league, the new memberships, and I'm going to have to go in and out in order to allow people in. Let's see if I can do that. Oh, here we go. All right. Whoop. By me pressing, it's just moving. It's moving the thing. So sorry, I'm gonna have to find ways to do this without it advancing the slide. All right, we'll talk about the new sports engine, an overview on that, the challenges that we're going to face, different plans, proposed tryout schedule, assuming we get that far, proposed 21 tournament schedule. We'll talk a little bit about a refund policy and what the things you need to think about concerning that. So getting started, hopefully everybody can see this. All right. So I don't know if everybody's keeping up with this or not. The South Carolina High School had two plans they put forth for sports. One was called the Lexington Plan, and one was the South Carolina High School League presented one. The High School League is the fall. It basically is the same sports. It's just doing it the same schedule. And that one was originally passed. But then there was an appeal by the Lexington, which was to prioritize sports based on low risk, medium risk, and high risk. And that one was declined initially, but they appealed it. And basically the high school league said, let's wait until the next appeal committee meeting, which is August the 10th, and vote on it again. And they sent out information. So we're basically waiting to see what they're doing. If any of you who are if any of you who are in the school system and find out any other information, please pass it along. If they go to the spring, we're going to back up and boot. So we're going to have to make some quick decisions and changes. And there's some other regions that are handling that right now in other states. So I'm in communication with them to find out how they're handling it. From my inside connections, they're saying that most likely the high school league program will pass, which is basically just delaying it a little bit and starting. And their current proposal for volleyball would end October 31st with the final championships. So if you've got questions on that, put it in the chat room and we'll move on. Okay, so an overview of the Sports Engine membership program. Hopefully you guys have already created your HQ account, which is what is needed in order to drive this year. It is a learning curve for both us and you guys. Some of you have used Sports Engine in their premium account. You can buy some services, and I might ask, I think Kim and Lance, I know you, or do you guys have it, Lance?
Not yet, but I was looking at probably doing it this year,
Okay.
so it'd be a unified system.
Right. I was thinking if somebody else does have it, you might want to share some thoughts on that. But
I thought Jerry did, but
okay,
I don't know if he's on.
he's not. Yeah.
You're talking about Sports Engine?
Yes.
Our website.
You do.
Mm-hmm.
So you bought the premium service.
Yeah, we love it.
Okay.
Yeah, Jimmy, A-Town has had Sport Engine for 5 years now, and we are just now going through all the different things that they offer through it with communication to parents and et cetera. And it is a phenomenal platform and very quick response from their
Support
team if questioned.
That's good. I really do not know anything on the premium side. Myself and Kirsten's doing all we can do to try to learn up the region side of it. But I sent some material out this week. I hope that you guys had time to scan through some of that. They do have a very good training program and video training, video clips and stuff like that, along with written material. So somebody's unmuted and's got kids talking in the background. Probably not you, Sue, surely. In short,
It's Gwen. It's Gwen. No, she did.
Clubs are required to have your Sports Engine HQ account. Hopefully everybody's done that. If you have not, I think we've contacted everybody, but if you have not, contact us right away. That was supposed to be done by the end of July. Accounts, some of the new stuff is the accounts are going to be grouped by family. The parent will be the owner, and then they'll have sub-accounts for the kids. You know, so Sally might be the parent, and then there's a couple of kids, and they'll have sub-accounts up under Sally. There's just one username, one password for them to remember, and they get in and out. So that's not much to it. It's a little bit of difference, and I'm sure we'll start educating our past membership pretty early so that they know this before they can start signing up early September. All right. And then the price is the same. How they buy it is easier, more user-friendly. The biggest difference, I think I've got it in here, is actually, say it's a $50 regular membership for a coach. $30 will be charged on a credit card by Palmetto, and $20 will be charged by USAV. So they're actually separating it internally, and the billing will actually be separate on a credit card, but it'll just be one fee. It'll just show up as one. So they don't They don't like have to join USAV and join Palmetto. It's under one thing, but the credit card itself will be two different transactions. New players, we made the decision that we're going to have everybody, all players, go with a tryout membership. There's a number of reasons for this. Primarily, we had a buku of refunds last year, and we're trying to avoid that part of it. And then once they join the club or pick a club, if they're doing multiple tryouts, they'll upgrade to the full membership. Easy to do. The tryout membership is non-refundable. And then keep in mind, if you remember, 8 and under in the past was free. It will continue to be. And what will happen is they'll go into the program, they'll be asked a couple of questions, and the program will direct them to the correct membership. So if they're 12 or above, it'll take them directly to a tryout membership. If they're 8 and under, it's going to take them to a full membership, and they'll join for free. There won't be any charge to it. If they're 9, 10, or 11, it'll take them to a full membership. And I think that one's $15. It's the same price, but it's a full membership. And it's split like $7 and $8 or something like that to the region in Palmetto. Just FYI for you guys. Other membership options, we'll have a coach's membership. We'll have an adult that's non-coach membership. We'll have an official membership, and there'll be direct links to these. The reason they're separate memberships is that so we can communicate with just that group. Like if they're coaches or they're adults, they're non-coach role, chaperones, managers, blah, 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 or if they're officials. Now you may have Sally that's a coach with you that does both officiating and coaching. She'll sign up for one, and then she'll be either we will do it or we'll have direct her to do it. She'll actually go and sign up for the other official membership, which will be our secondary membership, but it's basically clicking on two things so that she's actually in two different groups. Again, if you have questions on that, put it in the chat and we'll stop in a minute. Kirsten's on also, and her and I will answer questions on that at the end. As I said, coaches or non-coaches, adults will be instructed to, if there's any requirements, background checks, impact, safe sport, the system will notify them that this is due and you have to complete it before you're put onto a roster. Keep in mind, last year or middle way through the season, which is pretty much canceled, you may or may not remember, is that if a player is 18 or turning 18 during our regular season, then they will actually go to a different membership and they will be required to take Safe Sport, which is free, but they still would have to do it because they're considered an adult, even though they're playing. And before you can put them on a roster, those things will have to be completed. So we'll have more information on that. You'll be able to see that stuff, as will we. And which I don't have it in here now. Kirsten, is your mic on?
Yes.
Can you, do you remember what it was? The clubs have to give us approval or
administrative approval.
Yes. Can you cover that just real quickly?
So currently with WebPoint, I was able to go in and access all of your club accounts, so I could assist with anything as far as rosters or things like that. With Sport Engine, you will have to go into the system to allow us admin approvals. And so once we get it all set up, we'll tell you how to do that, but it will be a step for you to do that just so that we'll have like a Palmetto region account that would have admin access. And that way we can assist you, especially in this first year, with all of those kinds of things of the quirks of getting the roster set up right, or am I seeing this person right? We would not be able to see them without that permission.
Yeah. And we have to do the same thing with USAV. So this is just so that her or I can help you guys with questions with your accounts. Tryouts are basically the same as last year, assuming we get to there. The new part is, which seems to be a little bit confusing. Once, Kirsty, I may let you explain that because you understood it, the details of that. You listen in, you remember all of it, and I'll make some comments.
Sure. So tryout process will remain the same. You will send out your offers, you'll get your commitments, and once you have your commitment, you have your what's the word? Have all your signatures saying that they're going to play with you guys. Have your contracts. That's what I was going with.
Right, yeah.
Once you have your contract signed, then you will send out an email to the players, and they will click on it, and it will be to get them in your Sport Engine account. To do that, we'll have to have you'll have to have the basic information for that player. So you can't just send it out to anybody that you have like an email address for. You'd have to have their full name, an email address, and I believe it's a birth date.
Yeah.
And so we'll teach you how to get that imported so that you have that information, and we can do massive uploads into Sport Engine for you to send that out. But the process for tryouts would be the same. And after you have your contract signed, you have your commitment, then you will send an email out to the players, which will have them click on a link, and it'll associate their account with your club.
And understand, which was a little confusing to us, is that if they're doing multiple tryouts, multiple clubs will send them this link, but they could only choose one. So we obviously may have, if they try to choose two, we get a message that says they're trying to choose a different club, and we come to you guys.
So that would be why we want it sent out after they've already signed the contract. This is not in place of the contract. This is a step after that.
Correct. And basically my understanding was you want them in your directory, which is kind of like a phone book. So you import all the current members that you have from this year into your directory, and that's just an import. And then any new players, all you need to do that are trying out is put in, like she said, name, email, and date of birth. And then that gets their basic information into your directory. Then the remaining part of the information comes in after they've signed the contract. Is that right?
Yes, you can do a download from an export from WebPoint of all your current members, and that way you'll have a directory started, and then you can just add any new players going to try out to that and do an import, so that, like he said, it'd be a phone book directory in your Sport Engine, but they aren't necessarily under your club. And then you'll have the email addresses and everything to send it out, the invites to, once you've had your tryouts and have contracts signed.
In my understanding, Lance asked a little bit about this, is that you will not have their complete information initially. So they'll have to show you that they've got a current membership on their phone, or bring a piece of paper or something like that. And we'll go over details of this as we get closer to time. I'm not putting a whole lot of specifics in now, because I think everybody understands is that nobody's got a crystal ball, and everybody's working on about a 2 or 3 week future window. So we're making plans for this and hope it comes to pass. This is what we just called or discussed, is you have a directory, which is kind of similar to a phone book. You'll put out names into that, and that's who goes through your tryouts. And then you'll send out basically an invitation email to join your club, which they're going to give you a commitment for. It just gets all their full information into your club. Before I go any further, let's ask if anybody, Julie's, anybody got questions on sports engines so far?
There have not been any questions in the chat, but I do have a question actually for me. How are you, or is there like a list of instructions on how to do that import from WebPoint to Sports Engine?
Yes, yeah, there's tons of how-to topics, and as we get closer, we'll get you that information. My hopes are, I haven't got a straight answer from them, but my hopes are is we have a one website that's got every bit of training sorted by topic. They've got that now, but it's not really, I'm hoping everything that we have, but we'll get that. We're learning as you guys learn.
I have a quick question. Is this something we could do now if we already have the account set up?
I don't think we can until September 1.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Anything else? Just stick it in chat. We'll come back to it.
Jimmy, just one thing to follow up there. I thought you said I thought I saw something saying WebPoint was going away August 31st.
Correct, but we still can't. You're talking about for exporting your stuff?
Yeah, so if I can't export my stuff,
You
those
can't.
dates got to overlap, or you have to plan ahead, one or the other.
They can still access it, and we have it. So if we need to send it to you, we can by club.
Okay.
Yeah, I did an export before they stopped it, but I'm pretty sure we can still do that.
I believe we'll have access for a little while longer, but we won't be using it as the membership database after that
Correct.
point.
And Lance, if you don't mind, stick that in chat just so that I follow up with that question with them. That'd be good. Guys, if anything's kept me awake at night, it's been what in the world and how in the world can you plan? You guys and us too. And we're going to assume there's not going to be a vaccine in time for the season to start and filtered all the way down to us. It may come out from the level of the calls that I'm on. The last one that we spoke with some high up in Atlanta that said their predictions are by the end of the year. Same thing you probably hear on the news, but that it may not filter down to the entire population until late spring or summer of 21. So with that being said, if you keep up with sports, you can already see what the professional baseball is happening. They've got it and they've shut it down, some number of teams. And I just have a fear that we're going to see some of these challenges ourselves. So it's going to have to be plan for the best, but be ready for the worst type situation.
Hey, Jimmy.
I have a question.
Yeah, did you see any of the info that came out of the AAU tournament as far as the steps that they took and then the progress that they had?
I did. I'm not sure if they sent that out to the general public, but we really had the report that I saw was very positive. It was done with a tremendous amount of security precautions and safety precautions. Of course, nobody's got probably 1 million square foot facility that they can spread the courts out 90 feet, but it was done very well, and they had a lot of positive feedback on it. We're obviously looking at that because it was a huge event for some of our larger events, but most of our stuff is the small things, small facilities and stuff like that. But yes, and I'll send that out. Do me a favor and stick that in the chat too, is share AAU feedback, and I'll send that report out that came to us.
Okay.
Some of the challenges, like I said, simply just not knowing the future and need to be flexible. Flexible is the big word. Will practice facilities be available? I think you guys, I said earlier, you're finding that schools are maybe not available now and may not be available based on what's happening at the time. I just foresee them being, I talked with a superintendent today at church, and he was saying their current thoughts is they would not allow outside groups because of so much liability concern. And, you know, they wouldn't trust the outside group to clean it like they would have to clean it and have to bring more ends, which would cost more. So they're saying, he said, if I had to make a decision today, it's no. But he said, you know, you're months out. So anyway, I don't know if anybody has had experience with a school facility or if you're having facility problems, but you probably need to start doing some checking here pretty soon, whatever facility you used, and get their thoughts on it and see if there's any other options available if they're saying no. One thing which I'll show you a little bit later in the slideshow is the survey that we did mid-July, I think it was, and it was pretty positive on the parents to sit there. But we still have that question, how many families will actually return? What will the situation be like 3 months from now? Stuff like that. So I'll mention this in the later slide, but we are going to do a survey once a month to the parents to keep a straw poll on them as to how they feel and what they need. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. You've got to start thinking about implementing your safety precautions. I talked to Angela earlier when she was first on and she was going through the things that they did. Obviously, some of you are already running practices, camps, clinics, stuff like that. So you know what you're having to do. I would like for you to share that with us, what you're doing. And if we've missed something on our list, we'll start giving that stuff out here pretty soon with a kind of a checkoff list that you need to be concerned with. From a national level, I spoke with our legal department, and here's the short story of it is basically a waiver is about worth the paper it's written on. So it's good to have, but don't suspect it to hold up in court if you've done a violation or hadn't done your precautions. And they said basically they said it will come and somebody's going to sue. And he said you've got to have your safety precautions and documented what you're doing, how you're doing it each time you come in and out of the practices. And the more you do, the better you're off is from a liability standpoint. But then that is taking work by somebody to do something. So have a plan and start thinking about it. The $1 million question is, how will tournaments be affected? How many spectators, if any, can be allowed? If we can't get spectators in, I think that will players return is going to change tremendously. The survey that we originally did, they wasn't wild about if they could watch it on a screen or being projected somehow through like Facebook Live or Zoom or something like that. Parents wasn't crazy about that. They want to be watching their kids. We may have to do something like AAU did. I think somebody may have to remind me, but I think it was either 10 or 15 limit that they had to do, and they actually had to be, I think, part of the roster. It had to be a member anyway. So
chaperone,
thank you. Yep, you knew it was something. Was it 15 or 10?
I believe that it was 10.
Okay. So the tournaments, we're going to plan for this. We sent a proposed tournament schedule out yesterday, but that could change night and day based on one, what parents would be willing to accept, because if they're not going to accept it, they're not going to want their kid to do X or Y. So we may have to adjust things so that they feel most comfortable. So that's why these surveys are really important, which is everybody's doing it, from football, college football to pro sports. Everybody's doing surveys to get figuring out what their customers will do. We may need to limit spectators. We're looking hard on tournaments on 2 different scenarios. And I might ask Corey here in a second. They're running some tournaments of what they're doing, but we're considering 14 pools, but limit either 2 teams on a court, the 2 teams are playing, and 2 teams leave the area, maybe even leave the facility, go outside for, based on weather, or 3 teams, and just have on the third team would be the work team, and just have who has to work on the court, so as you reduce the spectators in that one area. So we're looking at that. If we go to 2 teams, then the R1 would actually flip the score, would have the 2 teams, kind of like high school, provide line judges, and maybe somebody that does something else. It's just coordinating what we can do to get down to the minimum things. Currently, for example, I think Rock Hill has a 50% rule right now, and they don't know what that'll change to. So these are bigger facilities, and it may be the same thing if you're able to get into a school at all. So that's something, again, that we're going to have to adhere to and adjust to and be flexible. Corey, are you on? Okay, he may have stepped away. The other challenge.
Yeah, I'm on.
Okay.
I'm just muted.
Yeah. Can you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Can you quickly cover what you're doing for your tournaments and how many people are in a court and pools and stuff like that? Can you hear?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Well, it's basically the same that we talked about last week, or the last time we had it. The interesting thing that's kind of new is we've been running this high school league for the last few weeks, and what we decided to do was just have 2 adults come in. One could quote coach the team, because obviously the coaches can't be there, and the other adult was in charge of streaming or videoing the match for the parents. And as you would expect, the first couple of weeks, we had to turn away a lot of parents and some frustrated parents because they just weren't used to it. But the last few weeks, we had 0 issues with it. And we started another high school league today with some new schools. But a lot of the schools that played last month with 0 parental issue. So it's been really interesting to see how the parents have just stopped really pushing to get in to watch their kids play. Now again, streaming has helped. So that's really it. I mean, we're doing 3-team pools. We're having the off team just do lines and flip the score. I think we need to think through how we can be creative when and if we have tournaments this winter. But the only thing that I would say is that the parents have kind of got used to not coming in, which has been nice.
Well, and again, which might make a difference if it's high school that doesn't cost them anything versus they're paying a fee, pay to play, they may feel different. But
absolutely.
Certainly we'll put that in our survey and see what they say. Thank you very much. Getting back to this, the legal department went on this and said, you need a very specific, detailed refund policy. And his expression was, it's complicated. You need to answer, what if the season stops early? What are you going to do? What if somebody gets sick and you have to stop and quarantine for X number of weeks? What if a tournament cancels? What is their refund policy? I was just speaking with Laurie from Big South earlier this week, and she said they will have a refund policy, and that all the qualifiers will, and I suspect we will in the region. But if you go out of region and they don't provide that before you make a decision, you might want to know that. There's just all kind of what ifs, because you don't want to get into a problem going into the season if you don't have it in your contract or published or something like that. I think that's all I had. Oh, on refunds, I think I just said all that. Season ending early. Your practice facility saying you can't come back in and you can't have anywhere to practice. So what happens there? Tournaments canceled, their refund policy. Someone on the team gets COVID. And what I would ask you to do now in your chat if you've got some other ideas of things that needs to be considered in that, just put refunds hyphen and whatever that is. We'd like to know other things that a parent might ask if something happens in this crazy season. Here's the, assuming we have a season, here's the proposed tryout dates we're looking at. You can see 2019. The only thing we did is extended it a little bit into 2020 for the purpose that if you have to spread out your tryouts to get fewer people into a tryout, then you may need more time. So as we get closer, we can adjust that. If that's not the case and we can get people in bigger groups, we'll shorten it. If we can't, then we may even have to extend it. Currently, the high school leagues plan on October 31st is their final, their championships, excuse me. But that could change here in a few days when we get an answer from them on what they're planning on doing. Again, if you have questions on the tryout dates, put it in the chat. Just put tryout dates and whatever your question is. Julie, anything so far with questions?
No, there's just one comment from Jonathan in regard to tournament structure. He said that getting rid of side changes is something that colleges are doing to limit cross contact. So I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know how many of you guys know this. I just learned about it late last week. CJV in Charlotte is moving their tryouts to late August, third week in August. You can figure out yourself with that happening the problems that arise with not only the clubs around Charlotte, but some of our clubs that in the Rock Hill area, all those areas. So I'd like to have a short discussion and then any thoughts on that. I'm looking at a number of areas. In the past, we have allowed the clubs that are affected by a region, a bordering region, if they have tryouts that they're pushing for answers before ours, we've allowed the players that are within, they're doing that tryout, that are doing, trying out for also a Palmetto club, is some flexibility so that they can match that tryout. And we're thinking along that same line. As I have not been able to get in touch with Carolina region yet. Kevin Wintelbow, who's the commissioner there, has been on vacation. He said, call me Monday. I really don't know.
You'll need to unlock your iPhone first.
My phone's talking to itself. I really don't know what their thoughts are and why. If they're allowing this, if they're changing all their dates, or they're allowing clubs to do whatever date they want to do. I can't imagine that, because I think this is the only one that we've heard about. But it obviously affects us, and it possibly could be something that we've got to face later in the, later. I mean, I knew this was going to come at some point by someone or some region that's close to us that would affect us. So if anybody's got some quick thoughts on this, unmute yourself, bring it up. Otherwise, I would like to hear your feedback on what you think about this in the chat section, and then we'll move on to the next. Anything from anybody real quick? Okay. I will, I'll keep everybody posted on this. It won't affect but a handful of clubs, but it does affect clubs that have kids that do dual tryouts with Charlotte teams and this one in our region. But as soon as I talk to Carolina region, hopefully tomorrow, I'll know more what's going on. And let me let me say this. The board, we had a lengthy discussion. Some of you guys know this. There's a number of regions, probably a third of them, that pretty much look at clubs to do what they want to do because they're independent businesses, and the region get out of the rule business. Now, with that, we talked about that, and with that said, it pretty much would be a wild, wild west, and you would be competing against other clubs doing different rules, and there'd be no Judge Judy to oversee it. But in addition to, a lot of you use where we sanction players if they don't pay in the previous year, which, by the way, that needs to come in this month, in the month of August, if you've got any, so that we can do that. We can do it with Sports Engine. But we did talk about that, and the decision from the board and also from the survey of club directors this year was to keep it as is, with a few people having comments, but it was overwhelming majority wanted to keep it as is. But if you have comments on that, again, put it in that chat section, and I will talk to you specifically on that. This is the survey that was done on July the 7th. You guys may have seen it. It basically asked the parents, hey, if it was club was beginning in the next 30 days, would you participate? And part of that was with safety precautions. And overwhelmingly, about 75% said absolutely or probably. So we plan on at least 2, maybe 3 more surveys in August through October to ask more specific guided questions as to what they want and what they're willing to do. And we'll share those with you because those are your customers, and hopefully that will help you make decisions as to what you do and how you want to operate.
Jimmy, based on some of the comments in that survey when you shared it with us, I think there were some people that didn't understand this was a hypothetical and not gonna like usurp the high school season. There were some people that were like, no, because my child's playing high school in the next 30 days. So if we can make sure that they know it's a hypothetical question, not that it's actually going to start and overlap high school. But okay. I probably read 20 comments to that effect. So
okay, you mean the parents misunderstood the question?
Yes. Yeah.
Actually, in the email that went to the parents, that was explained. Now, again, club directors, we don't, do they read emails? Probably not. But that was explained in the first paragraph. So hopefully that passed along to it. But we'll reword it in the future surveys and do that. Thank you. You saw the schedule, or you should have seen the schedule that we sent out in September. The key thing that we need to know from a planning standpoint, and you can imagine why, is as soon as you kind of have a tentative idea of what tournaments your teams will attend, even though you don't know your teams yet, let's assume that if you've been running for a while, you pretty much know, what teams you'll have, whether it's regional or national or open or whatever the case is. We would like to know that in a straw poll. The reason is that if we are limited as to what facilities we can get into, we've got to schedule that. Our hosts who are hosting events, they got to figure out whether they can get into these. And if they can't, then we got to look at how many people we can get in. If we have to limit teams or limit spectators, there's a lot of moving parts on this. So we really are asking for your help, that we'll survey you starting in September, kind of getting an idea. And as we get closer, we hope that will be more accurate so we can figure out how many we can actually accept in the different places, all that stuff. And some of those things may move around a little bit, but we're toying with where we've got the Rock Hill facility, rather than doing a 2-day event, do 2 one-day events, a Saturday one day and a Sunday one day, because that came from the parent survey. But we're looking at stuff like that. So if you got comments on that, again, put tournament schedule and make your comments, and we'll get back to that. Here's the key points before we get into just open discussion. The key points for August for you guys to do is learn the basics of the sports engine so that you can answer basic questions. Again, I really think it's user friendly and it won't be near the learning curve that maybe WebPoint was initially. Members can figure out how members should register and how you get them into your directory. Again, there's a video on that. Hopefully you watch those video series. More will be coming. And we're actually going to have a webinar on just Sports Engine with the Sports Engine folks on it so they can answer questions for you. But that'll probably be late this month. I want you guys to kind of get into it, play around. Before we do registration, probably around the third week in August, we'll have that webinar. How and what you'll do for safety precautions at the facilities that you are able to get into. And we encourage you to publish that by September on your website where your registration is. Parents want to know that. I do get questions all the time. What are the clubs doing? We'd like to have maybe some kind of standard formatted thing that says we're going to do A, B, C, D, and it's just kind of a check off. So that parents can that are not accustomed with you, they're looking at you, they know what you're going to do. Start making your initial plans for tryouts. We may have to spread out the numbers. If it was tomorrow, I'd pretty much say you don't have to do that. But it's according to what the state allows. But if you have big numbers anyway, you may have to spread them out some. So start doing some initial plans for that. And then, as I said in the last slide, as soon as you start making plans, some of you do it early, some of you wait till September to do a tournament thought on what you're attending. It's going to be extremely important that we know that so we know kind of how many people we've got to look at and whether we can handle it or not. And then your refund specifics. And that's all of that, folks. So I'll open it up for questions. Anybody?
Hey, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Hey, you've referenced a few times if we have a season, if. I mean, are we thinking that USAV will actually be in a position where they'll say they're not going to insure clubs?
Well, I asked that specifically to our CEO, and he said at this point they have no plans to do it. They have plans to leave it in the region or state that they're in. Like if South Carolina says you got to shut down, then we have to go by their law. But he's telling us the insurance people are saying you're going to have coverage, but you've got to abide by the local law, whatever that is.
Gotcha.
South Carolina. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Anything else, folks? Last chance. I'll end with this.
Jimmy, sorry, this is Jessica. Regarding local law type things, do we know where we fall regarding youth sports versus gyms? Because there's different guidelines and different rules for youth sports leagues and for gym facilities. So do we know how that works for us?
I do not specifically. My understanding is from the governor for the statewide, and there might be something, in Charleston, but for statewide, it is open with a limited attendance. And
right, no, I know everything's open now. I'm just saying that if things were at some point to get really bad and to roll back, when things were closed, youth sports and gyms were categorized differently and had different timelines and policies. So I'm just wondering if we were to get to, you're saying USAV is saying we're going to fall under local guidelines.
Correct.
If that were to happen, do we even know what we fall under?
No, and I mean, you guys are listening to the same news I have. Look at what the schools are doing. I mean, the schools have waited to the last minute, and then there's different plans in different counties. So it's it's so confusing. And all we can do, as I said to start with, is be flexible and adapt to whatever our rules are as we get closer. As we get closer, we'll know more, and we'll continue to have these informational calls as we know more. But right now, sorry, I don't know. And there's the bottom line, which everybody should know, is that nobody's got a crystal ball to get us out there to mid-October to find out what it's going to be like there. We're literally going to have to adapt based on what's going on at that time. So we'll see. Anybody else? Hey, thanks everybody. I have recorded this. I'll send it out to all the clubs. I appreciate everybody getting on Sunday evening. As we get closer, this will become a little more intense and more specific oriented. So we'll have more information, but we really want to have a season. It's just a matter of what's going to happen in the next 2 months. They'll tell us a lot. Thanks everybody. If you have questions or concerns, shoot me an email and we'll be glad to get to it. Otherwise, we'll see you guys soon at the next one. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you.
Julie, I'm gonna have to find out how to copy all these. Chats. Save chat. There we go. Got it. Got it. Okay.